Good evening and welcome. In just a few moments, we're going to begin our dinner. Before we do that, I wanted to just take an opportunity to welcome you home, all of you alumni, to Bishop Lynch High School, and to a special welcome to all family, friends, and guests who are here this evening to recognize the lives and witness of three of our great alum who will be entered into the Alumnus of the Year Hall of Fame this evening. So my name is Chris Rebuck. I'm the current president here at Bishop Lynch High School, and it's my distinct honor and privilege to welcome you back here for this evening and this dinner of celebration. Before we get started with our evening, we do have a special guest, Father Milton Ryan, who is from Holy Trinity Parish downtown, and as a special guest and friends of family here, we're going to ask Father to come and bless us this evening before we start our meal. So please welcome Father Ryan.
This is about the third time in a month that I've been asked to pray with a drink in my hand. Am I Catholic or what? In the name of the Father, and of the Son, and of the Holy Spirit. Lord Jesus, we thank you for all of the ways that you have blessed us as a church, has blessed us as individuals, as family, as a nation. We ask that you continue to bless these honored alumni that we recognize tonight for all the ways that they have used the gifts that you have entrusted to them so wisely, so generously, and with such joy. We acknowledge that every good gift comes from you. And we ask that you place in our hearts a fire of your love so that we too, like them, can serve this church in ways that build up your body, the body of Christ, in ways that encourage our young people to embrace their faith, to live their faith. And we ask your blessing on all of us tonight in the meal that we share as we pray. Bless us, O Lord, and these thy gifts, which we're about to receive from thy bounty through Christ our Lord. Amen. In the name of the Father, and of the Son, and of the Holy Spirit. A toast to all of you.
My name is Julie Arata Beyer. I'm president of the Bishop Lynch Alumni Association. Welcome to one of my favorite events at Bishop Lynch. Tonight we come together to celebrate the pinnacle of the Alumni Association's year. A night where we celebrate one of the things that makes Bishop Lynch such a special place, the people. A night where we are inspired by those who became friars before us and after us. A night where we recognize friars who have served with distinction and provide excellent examples of service to others. Since 1990, the Bishop Lynch Alumni Association has recognized graduates who best exemplify the Bishop Lynch tradition and Dominican heritage of service. These graduates are chosen as Alumni of the Year because of their service to Bishop Lynch, their community, or success in their chosen field. Matthew chapter 5, verse 16 tells us, "In the same way, let your light shine before others, that they may see your good deeds and glorify your Father in heaven." These three inspirational friars were nominated and selected from over 11,000 fellow friar alumni. Congratulations to Maria. Congratulations to Maria, Brian, and Tim for setting an example for all of us by continuing to let their light shine and for continuing the Bishop Lynch tradition of service into their adult lives. And before we start the evening, I would like for all of the past recipients of the Distinguished Alumni of the Year to please stand and be recognized. Maria Longoria Farrell, class of 1976, has faithfully served Bishop Lynch and her Catholic community. Maria has served in the Diocese of Dallas in many ways: as a Catholic educator, in campus ministry at SMU, at Holy Trinity, and volunteering at St. Pius and Bishop Lynch. At Bishop Lynch, Maria directed the 1983 production of Camelot, and I can personally say it was a pleasure to be in her cast. Maria also served as a TAPS academic competition judge, a member of the Parents Association, marching band volunteer, bookstore volunteer, and for over 10 years, a Black Friars volunteer. Maria has been married to John Farrell, class of 1975, for 40 years, and their 4 children are proud alumnus. John, class of 2000, Melanie, class of 2002, Christine, class of 2004, and Kevin, class of 2007. Maria is not the first Farrell and her family to be recognized as a Bishop Lynch Alumni of the Year. She now shares this honor with her husband, John, who has been recognized for the same honor in 2000. Ladies and gentlemen, we are proud to present one of our 2019 Distinguished Alumni of the Year, Maria Longoria Farrell, class of 1976.
Thank you very much. Bishop Lynch Alumni, administration, classmates, friends, and my dear family. I cannot begin to tell you how honored I am to be named as one of the Distinguished Alumni of the year 2019. When I was a little girl living on Swan Drive, I had no idea how important that big school at the end of the street would be to me. I am the oldest of 7 children. 4 are also graduates of Bishop Lynch. As I was growing, I watched my parents make significant sacrifices in order to send us to Catholic schools. Without knowing, they taught me the importance of Catholic education, and as I matured, I learned to appreciate the value of that education more and more. It is not just learning the basics of reading, writing, and arithmetic. I'm sure that I could have received a wonderful education in those subjects at the very fine public school down the street from my home. But my experiences at St. Bernard and at Bishop Lynch gave me the Catholic lens through which I view the world. That lens is not found in the finest of public or private institutions. That lens is what sets our Catholic schools apart from all other schools. It makes us unique. My Catholic education gave me the faith foundation which would help me to form decisions throughout my adult life. My faith influences my priorities, my opinions, and all my choices. Bishop Lynch is well situated to serve the Catholic faithful of Far East Dallas, and its importance cannot be underestimated. It serves the important role of offering that same Catholic education that I received over 40 years ago to our new generation of Catholic faithful, the future leaders of our parishes, our future church. The beautiful buildings and the state-of-the-art technology someday may be bested by other schools, both public and private, in other parts of Dallas. But our treasure is our community and our faith. It should be the priority of each and every one of us to promote the Catholic education at Bishop Lynch and ensure that it is readily available to all our children, no matter their challenges, be they academic or socioeconomic. The Bishop Lynch of today is immensely different from the one I knew, or even the one my children knew not even 20 years ago. But the essence of that Bishop Lynch remains. It is rooted in its history and tradition. It is rooted in its Catholic faith. Although I may struggle to find the Bishop Lynch that I knew within these walls, I know that the heartbeat of the school remains. The Catholic values instilled in me by the Dominicans are still very present. I treasure my years at Bishop Lynch, the friendships I made, the experiences I shared, and most importantly, the deepening of the faith that I already knew and loved. John and I worked hard so that our children could benefit from those same experiences, and I am immensely proud of the adults that they have become. I believe that it is in part to the Catholic education they received. I look forward to the time when my grandchildren will also benefit from a Bishop Lynch education. I pray that it is available to them. I would like to thank the Bishop Lynch administration and the Alumni Association for this honor. I would also like to recognize and thank my parents, Joe and Teresa Longoria. They were wonderful examples to me of sacrifice and of love. My children, John, Melanie, Christine, and Kevin, have always been a source of pride for me, and I consider them my finest achievement. Finally, I would like to express my most sincere appreciation and my love to my husband, John, also a distinguished alumnus of Bishop Lynch, for 40 years of strength, support, and love. Thank you all.
Brian Walter, class of 1981, has achieved excellence in his chosen field and has faithfully served the Catholic community and Bishop Lynch. Brian holds a degree in petroleum engineering from Texas A&M and an MBA in business administration from the University of Dallas. Brian has worked with his family's oil exploration companies and has stayed active in his Catholic community. He has held leadership roles in professional, social, and Catholic organizations, including serving as Grand Knight of the Knights of Columbus Circle 799. Brian and his wife Karen are proud parents of 3 Bishop Lynch alum: Kimberly, class of 2015, Whitney, class of 2016, and Benjamin, class of 2016. Ladies and gentlemen, we are proud to introduce one of our 2019 Distinguished Alumni of the Year, Brian Walter, class of 1981.
My Bishop Lynch story starts in the spring of 1977. I was walking home one day from middle school, and I was reflecting on the day's previous events. I was 14 years old. We'd lived in Dallas for about a year and a half, and it wasn't really a particularly good day at school. I went to a public school, to a failing public school, and had a lot of problems. That morning, I'd witnessed a gang fight, probably 20 different kids, and it's pretty graphic for a bunch of 13 and 14-year-old kids to do. It just wasn't a good situation. And then it kind of tapered off from there, from the bullying to the intimidation and the shakedowns, and it just wasn't a good place to be. And so as I walked home, I'm thinking, I got to get out of this place, because this is just the JV. I'm getting ready in 6 months to go to the high school, and that's where the varsity thing is. It's just going to get worse. My brother Doug was already there, and he'd bring home just worse stories than what I just told you there. And I just kept walking, thinking, there's got to be another way. And at the ripe old age of 14, I'd already been to 6 different schools. Not because I flunked out or disciplined, but my parents moved around a lot. And so about every 2 years we'd move somewhere. And I went to 3 public schools and 3 private schools. And so, I knew a little bit about what a reasonable school ought to be, and this was not a reasonable school, and it wasn't really a reasonable route for me. Anyway, I walked home, I just thinking, there's got to be a different way. It's not like in 1977 you go to the internet and type in, my local schools and get rankings and everything. My world probably revolved around about a 1 mile radius where I could ride my bicycle. And I'd already been there a year and a half. I didn't really know as much about the area. Didn't have a lot of friends. And then one name popped into my mind, Greg Duncan. Greg was the son of Melba and Bob Duncan. They owned a meat shop over near Fair Park. And they were bridge buddies with my parents. So over the last year and a half, we'd gone to their house and they'd gone to our house, and I'd met Greg. And he told me he went to this school called Bishop Lynch. And about, you don't talk about a lot of school back then. I just knew that he had to wear a uniform. And, he seemed pretty happy with it. Other than that, I didn't know much about it. So that night, I decided to make my big ask. I was going to go to my parents and ask them if they would send me to Bishop Lynch instead of going to this other failed public school. I went and talked to my parents, and they didn't say yes right away. They had to think about it. It was a big commitment on their part. My dad was starting a new company, and we had 5 kids. If I went to Bishop Lynch, my mom would have 5 kids and 4 schools. And, it was a big commitment for them. Anyway, fortunately for me, the next day, they agreed to send me to Bishop Lynch, and I was headed off. Fast forward 6 months later, the first day of school, I was an incoming freshman. The student body was called to the Legacy Gym, which is what we call it right now. And everybody gathered. The freshmen sat in their spot, the sophomores in their section, the juniors and the seniors. And the faculty and staff got up and started talking. And the faculty started talking about the high expectations of Bishop Lynch and what the expectations were. And the staff got up, the coaches got up, the band got up, of course the drill team, talked about excellence and veritas. And, the bar was set pretty high. And while we're listening to all this, there's kind of a low murmur going around in the student body. And then Father Gambro gets up and starts to approach the microphone. And the whole place just goes silent. I mean, we knew that guy. He must be the main man. I didn't know who he was. I just showed up. This is a pretty serious deal. And so he gets up and he says, I'm here to support you. If you have problems in your academics, you have problems with any kind of social deal, you come see me. But if you have problems twisting off or doing something, I will find you and you don't want to see me. I mean, this guy's serious. So then he kind of turned his attention and addressed the different classes, and he said, freshmen, as long as you're new guys here, you'll be okay as long as you, follow the rules and just keep straight and narrow. And then he looked over to the sophomores, and this is one of my favorite lines that I remember today. He's like, you know what the definition of a sophomore is? Of course, it's a rhetorical question. Nobody dare answer him. It's like, you're a wise fool. Just because you've been here 1 year, you think you know everything, and you're getting ready to do a bunch of foolish things because you think you can get away with it. But that's not the case. And then anyway, he went on and started, to set the sophomores straight. And then he went over to the juniors and seniors. And right then, when he was kind of talking to the juniors and seniors, I kind of had one of those clairvoyant moments. I'm thinking, I only know one person in here. There's probably 900 people in here. It's hot as hell because there's no air conditioning. I got to wear a tie. It's the longest I've ever worn a tie in my life, and I'm over here grabbing it like this and moving around, and things would be a lot tougher than what I thought what I was getting into. But you know what? These people care about me. They want to see me succeed, and that's a big deal. And I just said, you know what? I think I'm the luckiest guy in the room. I just found an oasis in the middle of an academic desert. Now, if I went to the other path, maybe I could have got to the same path where I was, but it had been a hard road to follow. And it still is a hard road to go. I just thought I was just a lucky guy. Anyway, my experience is a lot like other Bishop Lynch alumni. And it's kind of a little recipe. If you look at the demographics of an incoming freshman class, about 250 students. There's about 50 schools that make up that pot. So if you take out the big feeder schools, there's probably maybe 2 or 3 different people from each school coming in. So it's really kind of a geographic mixing bowl because there's not a lot of cliques that are here, and everybody kind of needs to get together and make their new friends. And in addition to that, you got students like me who are happy to be there. They're glad and they're ready to go and learn. On top of that, you got parents like my mom and dad who will support this and try to help as much as they can, you know, everything they can do to keep you going forward in Bishop Lynch. And the most important thing about Bishop Lynch, the most important thing, bar none, is there's God in the classroom. And that's just huge. And it's not only in the classroom, but it's celebrated in the classroom. It's just a game changer. And, you know, once mom and dad kind of realize this, you know, then they start sending, well, Junior had such a good time there, I'm going to send his brother and sister there. So there's a lot of families, like the Farrells, everybody's going to Bishop Lynch. And that's not unusual either. In fact, that's what happened to us. And probably one of my most proudest legacies of Bishop Lynch is that because I went, my brother Craig went, my sister Laura went, and my brother Blake went, and my 3 kids went. And to me, to have that positive influence imparted on somebody in their formative years is a big deal. And I'm just really, really proud of that. One thing I haven't done is I hadn't mentioned my wife. I know I need to mention her, otherwise I get in trouble. And so when our kids went here, the first thing she did is raise her hand, and she wanted to volunteer early and often. And, you know, and she did. And she volunteered and volunteered and volunteered, and I think the culmination of that was she spent 6 years on the Bishop Lynch board. Sometimes I feel like she's more of an alumni than I am. She got six years on the Bishop Lynch board, and I got 4 years, you know, going to school here. Anyway, you know, there's 11,000, I think, graduates. I'm not sure who makes up the Alumni Association committee or how they choose something or how my name bubbled up. I'm not sure why I'm up here speaking, but I'm honored to do it. I'm humbled to be here with Maria and Tim, and I thank you for listening to my story, and I still think I'm the luckiest guy in the world. Thank you.
And last but not least, Tim Mathews, Major U.S. Army retired, class of 1987, has faithfully served his country, his community, and Bishop Lynch. Tim earned a BS in kinesiology from Stephen F. Austin. He served our country in the U.S. Army for over 30 years, and our community as a firefighter paramedic for over 20. Tim, we thank you for your service. Now on to the stats. This is incredible. From 1993 to 2010, Tim was head wrestling coach at Bishop Lynch and coached the Friars to 16 TAPS state championships. Over 100 state individual championships, and over 350 dual wins. An Eagle Scout himself, Tim serves as an assistant scoutmaster at St. Pius and has served at BL on several committees and volunteers for the chess club and an assistant bowling coach. Tim has been married to Rebecca for 18 years, and they have 3 children, Joseph, the class of 2021, and Christina and John, who attend St. Pius. Ladies and gentlemen, we are proud to introduce one of our 2019 Distinguished Alumni of the Year, Tim Mathews, class of 1987.
Thank you for having me. Where's Mr. Zillman at? It was 28 minutes yesterday. I'll do my best. And I know that I can't go too far because Bob Liston and Scooter Chavoy and Joey and Ross told me to mention their name. I did. So, But I will say that I did write a speech, and I'll do my best. So, should it be serious, emotional, funny, or what? And everybody knows me in different aspects. And what I should be blessed. I was able to meet Coach Gibbs with Coach Persinger at the Interstate 500. And Coach Gibbs from the Washington Redskins, he's a big NASCAR guy, and he found out that I was a coach, and Coach Persinger was there too. And he told me, he said, you want to be a great coach? And I said, yeah, I want to be a great coach. And that was the year that Lynn Ruby invited us to go in '93. And so I said, I want to be a great coach. And he said, well, in order to be a good coach, you have to be surrounded by great people. And if you look around among us, I'm surrounded by great people. And so you start by saying thank you to the Lord and my family, to the alumni board, to Julie and Deb, Chris Rebuck, Dr. Chad Riley, and the BL teachers and the staff, my friends, family that are here, a lot of wrestlers that are here, the Lee family, which was my original wrestlers, my original team captains from 1993 are here, all the way through all those state championships and national runner-ups 5 times are all here, all the way up until that wrestling career that I spent here for 19 years with Bob Liston, my assistant coach. And so then also all the way to my surrounded with greatness of my fellow 87, class of 87. There's a lot of great alumni and alumni classes, but you know that I'm very proud to say that the class of 87 is the #1 class at Bishop Lynch High School. So I'll just tell you that. I will tell you, and I mean, when you're flying from Tennessee, and Jim Ryan flew down for this, God bless you, thank you for coming down here. You surprised the hell out of me. So anyway, I'm very proud of the class. So I wanted to acknowledge some people, my brigade commanders here, Colonel Gafford, and my senior drill sergeant from active duty is here. And, I'm blessed to be around a lot of great people. So how did I get here and how did it get started? And I promise I'll keep this under 10 minutes. How did I get here and how did it get started? And it actually started with this piece of paper dated March 21st, 1983. So this is the original letter that my parents received from Bishop Lynch. And that's how I got started. And it just says, I can read it fast, Chris, because it's not very long. Dear parents, welcome to Bishop Lynch. We're pleased to tell you that your son or daughter has been accepted to the freshman class. It's in black and white. Maybe y'all got the same letter. To complete the registration, please return a non-refundable $50 envelope to student registration, and there will be a late fee of $15 if not returned by the 11th of April. Please complete the health form and submit that by August 15th to be accepted. If you have any questions, please call the office. Bishop Lynch offers the student tremendously opportunity for growth, educational, social, and faith. We look forward to seeing you, Ed Leiden. So that's how I got started. So that's how I got started, and I wanted to read a poem, and then that will set the mood of the theme of History Will Remember Me. So I've had this poem with me for a long time, and I live by it longly. The strongest oak of the forest is not the one that is protected from the storm or hidden from the sun. It is the one that it stands in the open where it is compelled to struggle in existence against the winds and rains and the scorching sun. Napoleon Hill. So I've always felt that I had to take not the common trail, but I always had to take a path in everything that I did to lead. Because it's possible. It's possible to lead and make your own path. And I think I did that. I feel confident that, through the military, Colonel Gafford and Sergeant Major Garcia, you can test this through the military. And Bob, I've been wrestling for a long time, and all my wrestling parents. And even through Bishop Lynch, I felt like I've always struggled, but to compel for leadership. And there's a few times that, that Zillman and I would have a couple of arguments here and there. And because I just wanted to lead. And so just like I took the example from my first wrestling coach, Leland Brotherman, and my first football coach, Coach Eddie Stocker, in the back. So, you just take that mentorship of what you learned at Bishop Lynch, and you lead. And that's what we've all done with all the greatness around you. We don't follow the same common path. I think all of us come to lead. So with that in mind, this is the emotional part, but I know I'll get past this part. But the last words that my mom and dad said to me was, "I love you and I'm proud of you." So, and my brother's from Houston, my sister's here. So, and that's the same concept that Bishop Lynch tells us. When you come to Bishop Lynch, like Brian was talking about, Maria said, when you come, I was adopted. I was adopted of 6 children. And so I'm the oldest of 6. So my parents adopted me. Well, that's like Bishop Lynch. And when you leave Bishop Lynch, when you graduate and get the certificate, the diploma from Bishop Lynch, the last thing they tell you is, "I love you and I'm proud of you." And that's kind of what Bishop Lynch is. It's about Bishop Lynch pride, commitment to excellence and truth. And that's what Bishop Lynch will tell you. And that's what my dad always said and my mom always said. And that was the very last thing that my parents said to me. And so, and that's the bottom line. And that Bishop Lynch will always be there for you, just like they've always been there for me. I can tell you that I'm going to tell you a couple of secrets. And when they're always there for you, I felt that I had to give back. And that's why I'm just so proud of being a Bishop Lynch alumni. And maybe I'm too proud to be a Bishop Lynch alumni. That gets me in a lot of trouble sometimes. But I'm leading a path and I'm not following a common trail. And so I can tell you that Bishop Lynch has always been there. When I was 17 years old, I turned 17 on 9/11. And I wanted to join the Army, but you have to have parents' permission to join the Army at 17. And so the recruiter came to my house on Christmas. I don't know if Joel or Colleen remembers this, but the recruiter came to our house on Christmas Eve. And I said, "What are you doing here, Sergeant Haftall?" And he said, "You ready?" And I said, "What are you talking about?" I said, "Your parents' Christmas present is going to the Army between your junior and senior year of basic training for Bishop Lynch." But there was something that came up. I got real complacent in theology, and I was fixing to fail theology. And if you fail theology, I can't go to basic training. And it's because Bishop Lynch was there for me with Father Sean Martin, helped me study extra a little bit. I passed theology, and I went to basic training. And then 32 years later, here I am. So, Bishop Lynch is there for you. Another story that I have, my wife and I met in the fire academy in 1998. So I received the acceptance letter from the Dallas Fire Department in July of 98, and I'm going to the fire department, man. I'm going to the fire department. And so I go down to Torelli's and have a good time, Joey said, "Come on, man, you've been trying to get on fire department." So I'm leaving Torelli's, and right there where it's a one-way at Mockingbird, kind of right down the street from Campese, there's a one-way Greenville and the other street where you got to go one way. I did something that caused the police officers to pull me over. I usually don't know the story, so my wife knows, but so I got pulled over by the police. And here I just celebrating the fact that I got on the fire department, and I'm pulled over by 2 police officers. They were Bishop Lynch alumni. And the brothers of one of them is here tonight. You know who I'm talking about, Nevitz. But I got pulled over. But it was Bishop Lynch that said, "You know what? We'll take you home." And so, if it wasn't for Bishop Lynch alumni, I probably never would have met my wife. So, that's why I'm always giving back to Bishop Lynch. And it's like wrestling. I did a lot for wrestling here because I promised those kids I'd give my best, right? And Coach Persinger offered me the job. And I just tried to do my best. And so I tried to implement what Coach Persinger's done and Coach Zillman, who was the dean of the students at the time, and I think I tried to do that. So I often think about, how will history remember me? There's a saying, how history will remember me. I always follow that. So I wanted to give back to Bishop Lynch. So I'm almost done. So the reflections of how to talk this over was, what am I going to say? And my wife and I are remodeling our house. If you've ever been to the Paradowski house, it's no longer the Paradowski house, it's the Mathews house. And I'm looking up at this steel beam. We put a steel beam in the downstairs because we gutted everything out. It's 25 feet long. And I'm thinking about, what am I going to talk about? The speech and all that stuff. And you know what? Yeah, I just have to be a strong alumni, right? I got to be as strong as that beam. So they, my kids don't know, but I wrote their names up there and put it up there. And I think that's the bottom line, is that you just have to be strong in what you do as an alumni. And if you're strong, you'll develop a strong house. We're remodeling right now, and a house is built on four corners of a foundation. And our house is a strong house full of love. And so, and right now, Chris Rebuck and Dr. Riley has brought in this house system, right? And Joseph, I'm wearing your Lima pin, just letting you know. But, their motto is 8 houses in one home, right? 8 houses in one home. So I'm thinking about, how the alumni is created and how Bishop Lynch tells you what they're doing. And so the four corners of our house is, God, family, health, and education. Those are our four corners with the steel beam to be strong. Through prayer, brothers and sisters, health is a lifestyle. I almost lost my life with pulmonary embolism, and Bishop Lynch was there. I was at Fort Hood, and I was training for a marathon, and I thought I was having a heart attack, and come to find out, the doctor said, you're about 4 inches from death. You got to do something pretty quick. So, but within 2 hours, Bishop Lynch Alumni was down at the hospital with me. So that's what I look around now and I say, Bishop Lynch, there's houses everywhere, right? There's houses everywhere. Every time you graduate from Bishop Lynch, there's houses everywhere. And there's Alumni of the Year everywhere here. They're not just once a year, they're every day. And, if I was just going to talk about the house of God and family and health and education, it's in class of 87 or 81 or whatever class, 72 with Zillman, whatever. I mean, just saying that, even our class, 87, Father Simler, falls under, prayer and health, Dr. Peter Wood and, education with Jim McIntyre and Scooter Chavoy at Lone Star and under family. I mean, we all love, Torelli family and Ross Lau's family that's built their business, and Campisi's family. So we've got houses all over the place. And that's what I'm very proud of. I'm full of pride and commitment to excellence. And so I try to do that in my own life through the Army and the fire department and wrestling to keep my word. And I just try to live my life like just don't live your life like there's 1,000 years left. Because you don't know what's going to happen tomorrow. And as a firefighter, as a medic, and as a soldier, you tell them, I love you, I'm proud of you, and then the next day they're gone. And sometimes people just live their life like I've got 1,000 years left, and because tomorrow, there is no tomorrow. And so that's what I try to do with Bishop Lynch. And then in closing, just my advice to you is to use what God gave you. Use what God has given you. Because most of the time, we don't use what we got. We really don't. There's a true story about a baseball pitcher in 1966, a Texas guy. And he was wanting to be a pro baseball player, and he was a pitcher. And he asked his scout, what can I do to be a good pitcher? And he said, well, what are your pitches? And then he said, I got a good curveball, a good slider, good knuckler, I got a good fastball. He said, Just pick one, and you'll be good. Just pick one. And so the next year, actually on 9/11/1966 was his major league debut. This pitcher stolen these fastballs at 102 miles an hour. And the scout came up and said, "Man, you're good. You got a hell of a fastball. What's your name?" He said, "You don't remember me? I met you last year. You told me to work on my best pitch." He said, I did. He said, "What's your name?" He said, "Nolan Ryan." So the concept, and Nolan Ryan never won the Cy Young Award, and he only won one World Series, and he never had a no-hitter, but he got 5,700 strikeouts. But he got 5,700 strikeouts because he worked on his best pitch and he did what God gave him, and that was a fastball. So my challenge to you as alumni is just work on your fastball as an alumni, and that's what I did. I tried to be a good wrestling coach, worked on my fastball. I tried to be a good soldier, worked on my fastball. I tried to be a good family man, my fastball. Tried to do all that. So just decide. I appreciate it because that's what Bishop Lynch does. Bishop Lynch works on your fastball. They teach you how to have the greatest pitch at all, and it's just a testament of tonight's alumni, and I appreciate it. I'm blessed, and just know that it's possible. I guess that's it. Thank you.
A couple notes. I have been asked to say something I think is really great. When I was talking about Maria Longoria Farrell, there are also two other related Alumni of the Year in that family. There is Joe Longoria and Kathy Farrell, so that makes 4 in that family. So my family needs to get working on that because we don't have any. I would like to ask before we end the evening that all of the past recipients please congregate up here when we finish, and we'll take a picture of you all together. And for our closing, I'm going to have ask Mr. Chris Rebuck to come up here and end the evening.
Wow, it's going to be tough to follow those speeches. First of all, I'd like to say to you men and or women, we have gotten a little more personal since 1983, so I now make house calls to people's living rooms to tell them that they're coming to Bishop Lynch. So, no, it's, again, what an honor it is to be here, and in this space here, which is really behind me, marks the line of demarcation of the original entrance to the school. And we've made an intentional decision to place those photos of your graduation classes on these brick columns that now really sit at the center of the footprint of the school, right outside of the chapel here. Right. So this intentionality is done with the idea that what we do here today is we continue to build on that tradition of excellence, and in digging deeper roots into our Catholic faith so that we have an opportunity to share the witness and example of our alumni with the current students each and every day. Because one of the greatest values of our church and our faith is that we have a single living example of perfection in one human being who was sent here to be among us in a way to provide an example of how we could and should live our lives. And after that, regular human beings who are not perfect, making decisions and commitments to continue on that path of faith and of courage and of perseverance. The lives of saints, the lives of witnesses, and in our community, the importance of the alumni to what we do today and what we forecast to the future is ever so great. And on an evening like this, where we have an opportunity to continue to laud and to raise up those within our community who have been extraordinary in honing their gifts and sharing those with others, who took the examples and lessons, sometimes beat into them by those priests and nuns, But they accepted that molding. A molding almost as if a potter's hands was creating a vessel out of their lives so that they would be ever ready to receive the Lord's gifts to be poured into them. And no vessel is meant to hold something forever. It's meant to be poured out and shared with others. And this evening gives us an opportunity to recognize that in the lives of Maria and Brian and Tim and all of those who we've recognized before them. And guess what? All of those who sit on these brick columns behind me today. Because each of our over 1,000 students who walks the halls, they walk past that and they stop and they look. They sometimes laugh at funny plaid pants and paisley ties. But the reality is they know that they have roots that go well beyond the here and now. And however so important is that for young people today, to know that they are not rudderless amidst a world that is telling them to chase all kinds of things that will not fulfill them. They have a base that's deeper than just their home today, because their home here goes back to the commitments of those families, the first families, the Longorias, the Walters, the Mathews, those parents, those priests, those nuns who made a courageous commitment to start a school to change people's lives. I don't think that the economy was that great in 1963, but yet they did not stand in fear of the challenges and obstacles that they would have to tackle together to continue to push this organization forward. And I now, as the steward, the leader, the humble leader, to stand on the foundation of what you've provided, it is such an honor and a humble place to be, to continue on that path, to tie the past, the present, and the future, so that we can continue to show kids a path to college in heaven. I had a wonderful opportunity just a few days ago to sit and hold the hand of Father John Gambra. As I knelt beside him in his wheelchair in an assisted living facility in Chicago, recently turned 90 years old. The power of his voice and presence was felt by me and some of the alum who were with me from the class of 1969, 1972, and 1973. And even then, they even said, "Wow, were you guys nervous to see him?" It's like we were waiting in the principal's office once again, 50 years after these guys had seen him. What an honor it is for me as a leader to be able to see the roots that I stand on today. And I think that what we saw tonight was a great representation of one of the greatest things that has been about Bishop Lynch's mission, which is giving access to students regardless of where they come from, regardless of their family background. And as Maria pointed out for us, a school that's committed to making sure that it's accessible to all types of students, regardless of their educational gifts and their socioeconomic place in society. One of my favorite quotes is from St. Francis de Sales, and it goes like this: "Be who you are, and be that well." Be who you are, and be that well. For in doing so, you bring honor to the master craftsman whose handiwork you are. Bishop Lynch forever has not been a place about coming to fit in. It's been a place about coming to belong to something bigger than yourself. And tonight, we see in the lives of Maria and Brian and Tim just a portion of their journey, because we all know that they continue in that path of giving back and of seeing things beyond themselves and beyond the here and now, so that we can continue to see by their shining example how we hope the young people of today will embrace their challenges of leadership. Bishop Lynch is a place where we believe in people and we change their lives because we love them. Tim, Brian, Maria, thanks for being who you are, and thanks for being that well. God bless you guys.